Okay, President Chen, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, August 12th, and I am calling to order our regular and closed session meetings of the San Mateo Foster City School District Board of Trustees. We are calling to order this meeting at 5:33, and we are immediately going to recess into closed session. And in closed session, we have 4 items. Item 2.1, which is Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Superintendent. Item 2.2, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release. Item 2.3, which is Review non-school, public school, non-public agency contracts for the 21-22 school year. And item 2.4, which is Conference with Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9. Again, maybe I'll just read this. It's on the agenda. It's Student versus San Mateo Foster City School District, OAH case number 202-103-1003. And then if any of these discussions are not completed before 6:30 p.m., the closed session will be continued following the regular meeting. So at this time, I'm going to recess into closed session. Thank you.
Okay, President Chen, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for your patience as we come back to the boardroom for the first time in this student academic year. So we are coming out of closed session, and we do have 2 things to report. Let me just make sure I read these off correctly. The first item is the Board of Trustees voted 4-0 to approve the settlement agreement in the amount not to exceed $55,000 for the special education student case number 202-103-1003. And then on the second item, upon the motion of Trustee Warren, seconded by Trustee Corzo, and by a 4-0 vote to give notice of termination of employment to 1 certificated administrator. And those are the 2 things that we are reporting out of closed session. And now we are moving on to our flag salute. So if everyone would please rise and salute the flag. Ready? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Okay, thank you. Next up on the agenda is roll call. We'll go through the roll call. Trustee Corzo.
Here.
Trustee Proctor.
Here.
Trustee Warren.
Here.
Thank you. And Trustee Watkins is absent, and I am here as well. Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda of tonight's August 12th, 2021 agenda. Any changes, additions, discussion? If not, I'd love a motion.
A motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Corzo. I'll go with Trustee Warren for the second. Roll call vote. Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
Trustee Proctor.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. We're going to go through approval of minutes, but actually I have a Brown Act clarification question. Superintendent Ochoa, since we're technically all in the same room now, do we actually do a roll call vote? Because we only did the roll call vote when we were not in the same room and on Zoom. Or should we just continue it for? All right, let's just continue it. Okay. Okay. Next on the agenda is 3.5, the approval of minutes for the June 24th regular meeting, the June 28th special meeting, and the July 12th special closed session meeting. Any additions, clarifications, comments?
President Chen, I have one correction to the minutes in 3.5.1. Just because I pay special attention, 8.5, it talks about Bowditch, and it says that 19.5 million would be from Measure T and 67 from Measure X, and those are just flipped.
Great, thank you for that correction. Anyone else? No, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with that one correction for June 24th, June 28th, and July 12th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Warren. Thank you, Trustee Proctor for the motion. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo.
Before we get to the roll call vote, real quick, I wasn't present for one of the meetings, so should we
Ah,
do them
let's take-
separately so I can
let's-
abstain from that?
That sounds great. Okay, why don't we do that? We'll do them separately. So why don't we do item 3.51, which is June 24th?
Okay, I will make a motion to approve 3.5.1 with the correction that I noted.
Trustee Warren, would you
I'll
have-
second.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Proctor for the motion, Trustee Warren for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo,
I'll abstain.
abstain. Trustee Proctor,
Yes.
Trustee Warren,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. So that passes 3-0 with one abstention. Why don't we go to item 3.5.2, which is June 28th?
I motion to approve the minutes for those two dates, which are June 28th and July 12th.
Great, thank you for the motion.
I'll
Trustee Corzo.
second.
Thank you for the second. Trustee Proctor, roll call vote, Trustee Corzo,
Yes.
Trustee Proctor,
Yes.
Trustee Warren,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. So the approval of the minutes have been made. Before we get into the statements, Trustee Corzo, would you mind doing the Spanish language translation announcement, please?
Bienvenidos a todos que están presentes. Si gustan recibir la traducción, por favor, levanten su mano o empujen el globo, el mundo que ven en su pantalla para cambiar su idioma a español. Gracias.
Thank you, Trustee Corzo. Next on the agenda is item 4.1, which is public statements related to non-agenda topics. These are topics that are not on tonight's agenda. The San Mateo Foster City School Board cannot act upon any matter that has not been included and publicly posted on the agenda, except under limited circumstances as permitted by law. The board may refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. Peter, would you mind opening public comment for items not on the agenda, please?
Good evening, and for those of you who might be joining us for the first time using Zoom, this is the opportunity to make public comment on anything that is not on the agenda this evening. If you'd like to make public comment and address the board, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom, and I will call on you one at a time. We have one. We have Marcella. Marcella, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Today was the first day of school, and for us it went well, but I'm here speaking on behalf of one particular parent, but I know it's a number of parents who have multiple children in multiple schools. This mom's a single mom with children in 3 new schools. She has to work more than full time to live here, which means she can't come and speak at this board meeting. Within a span of 4 to 5 days, she was overwhelmed with emails and voicemails all within 1 week of starting school. Because she couldn't take her children to mid-morning meetings, she missed key information. She can't afford annex, is worried about how to drop off and pick up her children, but she can't take time off to figure it out because she needs to work. Certain schools had great information online. For some schools, you had to come on campus to receive information. It caused confusion for families who don't have strong community networks. Every school site seems to have a different way of welcoming us back to school, which if you have children in multiple schools can be confusing. So I'm asking the district to make sure that there are multiple means of both sharing and receiving information, and that we make it clear how to reach out and who to reach out to. Much of what I'm talking about is school site specific, but I think the district can give clear guidance about how to ensure a more equitable and welcoming experience to new families. And since I have a little bit of time, I plan on speaking next Monday. It's the first meeting I've been able to make with regard to the trustee by area, but I do want to, at the board meeting, comment on when the proposal to adopt Resolution 34, 2021 was introduced. It was at the end of an incredibly stressful, conflicted year, and families, even your engaged families, were burned out. The timing of this resolution meant that feedback was requested mostly after school was out and families were regrouping and trying to recover after a challenging year. And I believe that this led to a lack of meaningful feedback in the initial 2 meetings that were held per the section 110 with regard to the composition of these districts. So I'll speak more on Monday about my specific concerns, but I did want to at least comment on my concern that we haven't received meaningful feedback. I've seen it in the YouTube meetings that I've followed because I haven't been able to make the live meetings, that we're just not getting the kind of feedback that we need in a district that's as large as we are. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Marcella. President Chin, we have no other hands for public comment at this time.
Thank you, Peter. I will officially close public comment for non-agenda items. Superintendent Ochoa, would you mind looking into the equity of the communication to all of our families, please? As for the trustee by area, I know we'll have a meeting on Monday, and I'm sure we'll get more comments about that too. Sorry, there's a little bit of feedback here in the boardroom. Can you guys just check to see if all the mics are off? Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. 4.2, public statements related to agenda items. Persons will be called on at the appropriate time of that item. Item 4.3 is foundation and committee reports. Does anybody have anything? I know it's the beginning of the year. I don't know if anybody's actually met yet. Anyone?
I know that there will be more information coming up in regards to CDAC, but I do believe the first CDAC meeting will be taking place on August 31st. And be sure to look out for more information regarding that.
Thank you. Anyone else with any foundation or committee updates?
I just wanted to share that the Sanctuary Task Force had a almost full day event and training available to our staff that was held on Tuesday. And I wasn't able to be there for the entire event, but I was there for the kickoff, and it was a beautiful kickoff to what I heard was a really meaningful and safe learning space for everyone.
Okay, thank you for those foundation committee updates. I will update, although wasn't an official committee by our board, but for those who don't know, the County of San Mateo has reinstated their COVID-19 update to the elected officials here in San Mateo County. I was on that call 2 days ago. I think Trustee Corsi might have been on. I don't know if anyone else is on. Yes. So I just wanted to give everybody just a couple updates for those who aren't watching it as closely as we are. San Mateo County itself has been doing really well. In fact, Dr. Moreau had said that we may be leading the country in terms of our county, but we are at about 92% vaccinated for those who are 16 and over. And I think it's about 90 and a half for those 12 and over. I think his goal is if we could just increase our vaccination rates for those between 12 and 15, and then those over 85, we will definitely be in north of 95% vaccinated. So everyone out there, please go ahead and take a look. I know vaccinations are increasing we would love for you guys to use the resources that the county has and either get vaccinated or tested. The other thing I just wanted to note that Dr. Moreau stated, which I thought was very helpful, was as we were going back to school and as there were a number of San Mateo County trustees on the call, he noted in his opinion, our schools in San Mateo County are one of the safest places for kids outside of the homes. So when you think about it, our teachers have to be vaccinated, everyone's wearing masks. It's a self-contained sort of system. You know, we monitor who the volunteers are on campus. He basically said that it's the safest place for your kids outside your home. So I don't know how much solace that gives everybody, but we do hope that that helps out a little bit as we go into a Delta surge. Okay, that's my little statement there. Why don't we move on to items 4.4. We have our SMEDA, SIA, CA, and SMEA updates. I saw Peter come into the room. He'll probably have to promote our speakers. So it'll probably just be a second. As we fill some dead air.
One of our speakers is here in person.
That's true. Oh, thank you. So why don't we do that? We do have a member in the audience. John, yes, please. We'll go with public speaking, public comment from the audience first, and then we'll go to virtual. John, if you can just hang on, I think Peter is going to switch things over. I'm sure he's going to switch something over. Yeah, something's going on.
My apologies. If you could just give me one moment.
Yeah, no problem.
Maybe we can take this chance to remind people that we are set up to do in-person public comment for those that are watching but want to join us in person. You will have to have your mask on, but we do have socially distanced space for everyone.
Great comment, Trustee Corzo, as we are delaying our, oh, here we go.
Thanks. Okay. Good evening, school board trustees and Superintendent Ochoa. My name is John Cosmos and I'm the principal of Bayside Academy, and I help to represent the San Mateo Educational Administrators Association, also known as SMEA. On behalf of SMEA, I would like to welcome our students, families, and staff members to the 2021-22 school year. A few weeks ago, Superintendent Ochoa, district leaders, and site leaders worked collaboratively for 3 days, identifying areas of focus for our work together during the school year and beyond. We appreciated the inspirational words each board member shared and left the 3-day planning session inspired and re-energized for the school year ahead. This morning, our schools opened their doors for all students with renewed hope, positive energy, and high expectations for a productive and safe school year. It is so good to be back and to hear the excitement in the voices of our students as we return to in-person learning. We look forward to working with our teachers, support staff, students, and families in making this a great year for all the children of the San Mateo Foster City School District. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And if you wouldn't mind, John, could you mute the microphone and the camera on that podium computer for the time being? Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, President Chin, should I bring the next representation up?
Please, thank you.
Fantastic. We'll bring up Julie MacArthur.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you guys. Happy first day of school. My name is Julie MacArthur, and I am the president of the San Mateo Elementary Teachers Association. I'm coming to you live from my son's 16th birthday dinner. So apologies if you see some things behind me, but it is a pleasure to speak with you tonight. First and foremost, I would love to acknowledge all of the hardworking SMETA teachers who have spent the last few weeks working hard to prepare their classrooms and getting ready for the upcoming school year. I'm incredibly proud to lead an organization filled with teachers who are so incredibly dedicated to meeting the challenges of the upcoming school year. There's no doubt that last year was a doozy, but there's also no doubt that the lessons we learned last year will make us better teachers this year. We're very excited to welcome 87 new teachers into SMETA this year, and we look forward to working with each of them and are excited for the positive impact they will have on their students and colleagues. Over the summer, the SMETA leadership team met to set course for this year, and we're very excited about some various activities and opportunities we have planned for the year. So the first thing I want to mention is that our Human Rights and Equity Committee, led by Jennifer Young and Yao Liu, have been hard at work creating affinity spaces for our educators of color and working with the district and the Sanctuary Task Force to bring those places to life. They have also gone beyond our own borders and have brought speakers and forums to other associations. And we're looking forward to continuing our partnership with the Ed Foundation this year and continuing to offer grants to educators to meet their classroom and student needs. And we're also hoping to partner with them this year around some meaningful ways we can bring athletics to the district. We know the value athletics has in our students' lives, and we're excited to do that work. SMETA also is looking forward to working with the district to make sure that all of our North Central families feel included in all of our district activities and that they know the value we as teachers place on them in our community. Finally, I am pleased to share with the board tonight that you have a tentative agreement for your approval this evening for the 2021-22 school year. And with that, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the SMETA bargaining team for their efforts. Lisa Fahey is our bargaining chair. Tara Dixon, Kimberly Tran, Nick Ferrer, all worked incredibly hard to do this. In addition, this team worked to create a summer reopening plan that is took a both safe and creative approach to making sure that students can safely enjoy electives like band this school year. I want to also appreciate and acknowledge the collaboration we were able to have with the district around both these agreements and look forward to continuing to problem solve together as we work through the next phase of our pandemic. And last but not least, I want to once again welcome Mr. Ochoa to the district and our community and say that SMETA looks forward to having a positive working relationship with you as we address the ongoing needs of our students and educators. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, next we'll be bringing on Alicia Aragon. Alicia.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Good evening, school board trustees and Mr. Ochoa. I had the opportunity to attend 2 of the ribbon cutting ceremonies this past week, and it was nice to finally meet some of you in person. Thank you, Mr. Ochoa, for inviting me, and thank you to the San Mateo Foster City residents for giving us a reason to celebrate. We also wanted to relay how happy all of us are to see children fill our campuses again. Working at a school site just isn't the same without all of them running amok, and it's nice to see kids getting a chance to return to some sort of sense of normalcy. And it's also nice to just see things moving in a positive direction. Speaking of moving in a positive direction, the following isn't really an update in regards to CSEA, but more of a plea from your classified employees. In light of current situations, I feel it would only be appropriate to address employee healthcare benefits for a minute. As an employee of the San Mateo Foster City School District, we are offered wonderful and affordable benefits for us. If you have children, though, that's where it gets a bit wonky. Let's start with Kaiser. Adding one child costs $813.64 out of pocket for the employee. Adding another child makes it a family coverage, which adds another $510.72 for a whopping total of $1,324.36. $1,324.36 for two children that the employee has to pay 100% of from the employer-sponsored health benefits. I know some people are either Kaiser people or they're not, so I'm going to give you another scenario. PERS Choice, and I'm picking this one just because I can't find a provider in the area for PERS Select. Maybe there is one, maybe I just didn't find it. But PERS Choice, adding one child costs $935.84 out of pocket for the employee. Adding another child makes it family coverage again, which adds another $561.50 for a whopping total of $1,642.08. $1,642.08 for two children that the employee has to pay 100% of for the employer-sponsored health benefits. I'm an administrative assistant at a school site and have been for about 7 years. That is about half of my take-home pay. During a pandemic, the fact that we are being offered healthcare at unaffordable rates for our children is ridiculous. Some of those same children are students within the San Mateo Foster City School District. So not only are you doing a disservice to your employees by not paying towards dependent benefits, but in some cases, you're also doing a disservice to those same students that we are here to serve. Please consider revising the employer contribution rates for dependent healthcare, and please do it without using cost of living increases or any other money planned for your classified employees as a source of funding, because some of your employees are struggling as is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, President Chen, back to you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Echo here. Thank you, John, Julie, and Alicia for your public comments. I really do appreciate your comments, and especially the addition of this item so we can hear you guys directly in a separate category rather than individual item. Yes, thank you. We're going to move on to item 4.5, announcements. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to make? Nothing, no. I will go ahead, Trustee Cuerzo.
I just wanted to take, sorry, I'm hearing an echo. This opportunity to share that, again, we are in the middle of our from at-large to trustee area process, and so is the city of San Mateo, and so is our Union High School District. They're in the beginning stages, but these are really important processes in our community, all kind of happening around the same time. So there's lots of opportunities to look into the process, the intention behind it, and get involved. So please be on the lookout for those opportunities.
I will just follow that up and actually plug in the actual meeting date, which is our next meeting about the trustee area elections is going to be held virtually, and it will be this coming Monday at 5:30. So for those who are interested, it is a very important topic. We are scheduled to hear this or hold this next public community meeting on Monday. And then the schedule is for us to actually vote on a map at our next board meeting, which is 2 weeks from today on Thursday, August 26th. So please attend if you can. We'd love to hear your input. Lastly, I'll just make the announcement for those who don't know. We did have our ribbon cuttings for our Measure X Phase 1 projects on Monday and Tuesday. We were very fortunate and somewhat unusual to have 4 ribbon cuttings in 2 days. And we did have ribbon cuttings for the Borel and Abbott gyms on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we had a ribbon cutting for Beach Park Elementary in Foster City and Bayside's Gym in San Mateo. So a really big, huge celebrations, and we're really happy to kick off this academic year with something special. So with that, we're going to move on to item 5, proposed consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be removed and discussed from the consent agenda. The superintendent and staff recommend approval of all consent items. Movement of any recommended consent item is appropriate at this time. Does anyone want to pull an item from the consent agenda?
President Chen, I need to pull 5.4.9 due to a conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Peter, would you mind asking the public?
Absolutely. If there are any members of the public that would like to have a particular agenda item pulled, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom, and I will call on you and ask you which particular item you would like to see pulled to make comment on. Okay, President Chen, I see no hands for public comment or to have anything pulled from the agenda.
Great, thank you, Peter. Would anyone like to make a motion on the consent agenda items here except for 5.4.9?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda except for 5.4.9.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Proctor for the motion, Trustee Corzo for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo,
Yes.
Trustee Proctor,
Yes.
Trustee Warren,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. That motion is carried. The consent agenda, except for item 5.4.9, has been approved. Do we just need, do you want us just to call for a vote on that, or
we would need a motion.
yeah.
And a second.
I wasn't sure if there was any discussion that we needed, or
Yeah, I was just going to say for transparency purposes, I'm on the board of Star Vista, so I'm going to abstain from this one.
fantastic. Anyone like to make a motion?
I will motion for item, I'm sorry, I'm like having trouble
Yeah.
finding the item number
5.4.9.
on 5.4.9.
Thank you, Trustee Corzo for the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Warren for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo,
Yes.
Trustee Proctor,
Abstain.
Trustee Warren,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. That motion is carried. So the entire consent agenda has been approved. We're all now on to item 6.1, approval of contract with CSBA for consultative services related to the strategic plan, the district strategic plan. Sorry.
Thank you for
All right, thank you, President Chin. It's my honor to present to the board this evening on this item, which is of the utmost importance to the direction and process that the district will take over the next 5 years. My recommendation to the board is that we engage in this contract with the California School Boards Association, specifically for strategic planning workshops presented by one of their seasoned consultants, Sepide Yo. The agreement consists of Sepide physically coming, assuming that health protocols allow her to do so, here to San Mateo Foster City School District, and conducting a series of 8 workshops that would take place over the course of about 4.5 hours for the attendees, and then just a little bit more time on either end for management and board members that would need to consult with Sepide. And the purpose of these workshops is to actually allow the school district to engage in a process of bringing together a very diverse set of stakeholders that represent the many communities we serve, that represent the employee groups that we serve, and that represent parents and families in the school district. And to bring these folks together to be able to identify the district's greatest areas of strength and the district's greatest areas of need, and to be able to establish some uniform building blocks that we will use as a district to achieve those goals, leading then my recommendation to the board to engage in this strategic planning, so that rolling around to January and February of 2022, which is about 5 months from now, that this board and myself would take the recommendations from this very diverse group of committee members who give us these areas of need and these areas of strength, and to develop goals here on the dais in front of the public with public engagement, so that at the end of our February school board meetings, the school board, I would request at that time to direct me to work with a team of practitioners within the district that would include representatives from both of our employee groups and management, to create specific plans to address the goals that the board has developed. So it's one of those processes that it really is a 360-degree process. It starts with myself and the team here at the district office putting together a very diverse group of people, probably somewhere in the 35 to 40 range. It's going to be a really big group of people, to identify areas of strength and areas of need, and to evaluate our vision and mission, to then give this school board some very firm recommendations in January, that this board and myself would then create these draft goals, just the language of the goals. And then you basically hand me the keys and say, Diego, work with the talented people that work in this district and create us some timeline-oriented action plans for each of those goals, which then we would bring back to the board at the end of March for your approval. And then that becomes our path for the next 5 school years. And I believe that if we can focus our energy and align ourselves to the greatest needs in this district, I think we'll have a fantastic future for years to come. So that's my recommendation to this board, is to go ahead and enter into contract with the California School Boards Association. I will turn it over to you all for questions or comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Ochoa. Does anybody have any clarifying questions on this item? No? Okay. Why don't we open to public comment, as this is an action item? And Peter, please.
If there are any members of the public that would like to make public comment on this particular item, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. President Chen, we have no hands for public comment.
Thank you, Peter. I am officially closing public comment on item 6.1, opening up to the board for discussion and or motion.
My only comment is that I think it's really important that we have a strategic plan, and I appreciate the stakeholder input that you're going to be gathering. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the results. So thank you.
I'm just going to echo that as well. Our school district has roughly about 12,000 students. That's probably pretty close to that in terms of number of families. Not to mention, going out from that, we have potential families. We have all sorts of stakeholders that are watching the work that we are doing now for their children and for their grandchildren that will be coming into our school district potentially in the future. Now is the exciting work where we get everybody's input as to how this is all going to play out. And yeah, I'm very excited about this, and I'm excited about having the opportunity to interact with our community and hearing what our community has to say that they see would be needs that we need to address. So I think this is great.
Great. Would anyone like to make a motion? Or do you want, do you want to say something or? Okay, hang on. We will.
Yes, I just wanted to add that I'm also very excited about this process. Definitely wanting to see representation from all areas of our community. I would say, you know, even folks not directly involved in our school district. I think that, for example, I'd really like to see our facilities be more open to the community. We have beautiful new gyms that can be of use to the community. This is, you know, these are public dollars at work, and all of our community should benefit from that. Yeah, I would love to see folks, you know, engaged in the process who, you know, not beyond just English and Spanish, but other languages. We have a lot of diversity here, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well. And I think it's going to be a really good opportunity to take our community engagement to the next level. I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Corzo for the motion and Trustee Proctor for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
Trustee Proctor.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. I was going to save my comment till now. I just think that this is a really great thing. You know, there's a number of things that the board has that we do that are of vital importance, and doing a strategic plan is one of those. And so it will set things up for the future. And so I am really glad we're about to embark on this journey. Okay, moving on to item 6.2, approval of the contract proposal for new leaders. Superintendent Ochoa.
I do want to remind the board that I did receive a coffee cup from my former district that says you are on mute. So I have a strong reputation for being on mute when I'm talking. So I just want to set that bar right where it belongs. This is another important item. This item is an item that addresses the now, in as much as it addresses the next year and the year after that. One of the irrefutable areas of focus for this school board over the last 18 months has been the very strong desire to interrupt the predictable educational outcomes for children in this district, and to implement programs and strategies within the district that have a significant impact on student achievement. So for tonight's item, my recommendation is that the board enter into contract with the New Leaders organization, whose reputation over 20 years is of the highest standard. Their work is fundamentally about engaging with schools, with school districts, and their definition of school leaders goes beyond simply one person at a school. They really have a concept that goes all the way deep into the classroom level, and to be able to provide coaching and mentoring and professional development in the mindset and skills needed to drive instructional excellence. And so this agenda item will initiate a series of activities over the next 18 months that I believe will cause a significant change in the ability of these site leaders to be able to support the highest level of effective classroom instruction. And what I think is key about how this will be implemented is that it's one of the first systems that I hope to implement with this board, in which our practices are evaluated with evidence and with metrics. So the focus itself is on the effectiveness of classroom instruction and the effectiveness of our ability to ensure equity. But the process involves us collecting data and then being able to present to this board to be able to report to you the data from all of these trainings. So that's a very key element of what type of leadership I hope to bring to this school district, which is a data-driven instructional leadership model. And the work starts here at the district office. So our educational services and student services administrators will receive training from new leaders, and then our process is to start with the principal level coaching and implementation in January of 2022. As a result of some feedback from internal stakeholders, we were able to ensure that all 21 school principals benefit from this program implementation. And it's my strong recommendation that the board initiate this program with the awareness that it drives instructional excellence with a focus on equity, and again, in a data-driven model that results in the board receiving reports annually telling you how the process is working. So with that, I will turn it back over to the board and open for any questions regarding this presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent Ochoa. Oops, I think we lost you for a second. That's okay. Any clarifying questions from the board? No, I don't see any clarifying questions. Great. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Peter, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. If there are any members of the public who are participating remotely and would like to make a comment on this item, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. We have one. Marcella? Marcella, go ahead.
Yes. Sorry. Thank you. I absolutely love everything that Superintendent Ochoa just said. I have a question about the proposal itself, though. It's a high dollar amount in terms of the types of things that normally come without any kind of scoping or request for proposals or discussion about other options, especially because it's a 4-year plan, but the $400,000 that's indicated in the agenda is really, it appears to be only for the first 1 to 2 years. And so we're basically spending $13,000 about per person that's going to be trained. And I'm just wondering what other considerations went into selecting this one particular group over others. So that's my specific question, because I do think that everything that Superintendent Ochoa said matters, and it goes exactly to the heart of equity and the things that I'm always talking about, making sure that we're seeing similar results, or being able to see the growth and the equity from school to school to school. But I did have a concern about having only one proposal as opposed to reaching out and seeing what other opportunities exist to partner, even potentially with educational leadership programs within universities, and kind of what other options are out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. Okay, President Chen, we have no other hands for public comment at this time.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to officially close public comment on this item, which, is item 6.2. Thank you, Marcella, for your public comments. Before we get into board discussion and ultimately a vote, because this is also one that needs to have it is an action item, Superintendent Ochoa, would you mind elaborating a little bit on the selection of new leaders, please?
Absolutely. And first of all, I want to thank Marcella for your comments. It's always a process when you're going through evaluating potential consultative services. Our newest director of educational services, of curriculum instruction, I should say, Kenyetta Cook here at the district office, when she transitioned over in late June, this was basically her charge for the next 4 weeks. And we were able to connect with 5 different potential providers, all of who had a different angle and a different approach to the work that we were doing. One of the non-negotiables to be able to make this presentation to the board was that that particular service provider would need to be able to make a multiple year commitment to the school district. And new leaders met that criteria, that they would need to have an equity focus and have a history of success with evidence that their strategies work. And new leaders brings that to the table. In 2019, the RAND Corporation did a study, an extensive study, and found that their model works and that it has an impact on the achievement of students as well as the attendance of students, which we really valued as well. The cost, I think, is, to address the issue of how we focus on professional development. In our district, we currently spend an incredibly low amount of money on professional development. As a result of our strategic plan process, I believe that one of the things that will come up many, many times when we're discussing how to address our district's progress is the need for more professional development for instructional assistants, for teachers, and for administrators alike. And as a result of that, this is sort of the first step that I'm recommending to the board, that we elevate the importance of professional development. And it starts with this initiative because of the impact it has on these school leaders and these individuals whose responsibility it is to ensure the progress and the implementation of the district's plan. And so the $400,000 cost is, it's obviously a high number in the sense of the type of contract that comes before the board. A $400,000 contract is a big contract, but my recommendation to the board is that it is an appropriate amount per administrator, considering the multiple year process that we're about to embark on. Now, Marcella mentioned one thing about the $407,000 approval, and then the proposal indicating multiple years, or 4 years. And the reason for that is that the agreement authorizes the implementation of this contract for the first 2 years and gives us the ability to coordinate with new leaders to have a reduced cost in the 3rd and 4th year. Based on the development of the training and the success of the training, we might determine to reduce the contract, but at no point in time would the annual cost ever exceed the 1st or 2nd year annual cost, and that's actually written into the proposal. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but I think Marcella brought forth a lot of really smart questions and a lot of really good content, so I wanted to go ahead and just expand a little bit more.
Thank you, Superintendent Ochoa, for that explanation. Opening up to board comments, discussion, and again, this is an action item. So.
Okay, I'll go. Sorry. So thank you, Superintendent Ochoa, for bringing this to our attention. we value our educators so much, and we talk about attracting and retaining good people. And I also know that it's very expensive to hire people and onboard them and retrain them. And so I know that we have really great leaders and educators here now in our district. And so I definitely support putting money towards this. I also appreciate that all 21 principals are going to get to do this all at the same time. I guess you could maybe pare this down and say X number of principals can go this year and X number go next year. But I think that loses momentum. And I think that this sounds like a really great thing, and I am all for it.
I support Allison's comments. I also want to just note that, like, looking at the contract, there's a lot of. Is this better? Okay, sorry. Getting used to these things. Okay. Yeah. So looking at the contract, I really like the breakdown and the sequence of the training and focus, and also just like the emphasis on equity. I'm trying to find that now. I'm not seeing it, but I did see it. Here it is. I think that's kind of like the main. That's the first kind of topic in the framework descriptions, not in the framework infographic, but in the next part of it. And I think we've heard the need for PD at all levels of our system. And we really need our leaders to have that support so that they can in turn support our staff and our educators. So it is a lot of money, but I think when you take into account the financial cost of not supporting our leaders in this way, and kind of those unseen impacts and financial costs, it makes a lot of sense to me. I like that this proposal is very thorough. Some of the program monitoring communication includes surveys, monthly check-ins, formal step-back meetings, and I'm just really impressed with this contract, and so I'm excited for this work to begin. Thank you.
Okay, and I think I'm just going to continue and echo what Trustee Corzo and Trustee Proctor have said. We talk equity. We have an equity task force. We have a sanctuary task force. We've designated ourselves as a sanctuary district. It's time to put actions behind our words. And I see this contract as a step in that direction. Most of the equity work that we're going to be seeing is going to be at the site level. Our principals are going to be the ones who are the boots on the ground in our equity work. It's important that we train them and we invest in our principals and invest in our administrators so that they can do the work and do the work not halfway, but all the way. And I just want to say that I'm 100% for this. And I'm glad that we are giving our people the opportunity to go ahead and do this.
Great, thank you for all those comments. I will just say ditto, just a big believer in professional development. I do like the contract as well. And so would anyone like to make a motion as this is an action item?
I want to make the motion. I'll make the motion, but I also just wanted to add real quick that I wanted to add that I'll just make the motion. It's fine.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Corzo for the motion, Trustee Proctor for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
Trustee Proctor,
Yes.
Trustee Warren,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. So that motion has passed. And we are moving on to item 7.1. But before we do item 7.1, if we could just do a couple of housekeeping matters. Trustee Corzo, would you mind doing the Spanish language translation again, please?
Gracias por estar presentes. Si alguien ocupa traducción, por favor levanten la mano o hagan clic en su pantalla en el mundo y para cambiar la idioma español. Gracias.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thank you. Yes, that does help. Oh, and then mute. Make sure you mute. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so one other housekeeping thing that I wanted to do this academic year more than we had done before is just to let everyone know in the audience how many participants are attending our meeting. Tonight we have about 65, and it has fluctuated around that tonight. So I know that there have always been questions and people have asked comments, and I am going to try and make a concerted effort to announce that at least once or twice during the meeting, so people know. So moving on to item 7.1, Superintendent Ochoa.
I just get to do all the talking tonight. You folks are very lucky. This is an item that is brought forth to the board for your consideration. It is a very standard recommended change in board policy and in administrative regulation regarding independent study. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, school districts throughout the state, beginning in March of 2020, engaged in a series of shutdowns that led to some very significant learning loss and the initiation of distance learning in almost every community in the state of California for the prior school year 2020-21. And leading into this school year, it has ebbed and flowed in the opposite direction in such a way that districts are now prevented from initiating what we would have thought of as full-time distance learning. And we've now been given new charges, new directions to implement independent study. So our district has already complied with the requirements. We have already initiated independent study. It is rolling, it is working. What I'm bringing to the board retroactively, unfortunately, because they made these changes so recently, is for your review tonight. It is not for your approval tonight, but for your review tonight, and then hopefully approval at our next board meeting, is literally brand new language. Usually you take a board policy and you cross out the things that you're changing, but in this case, it is so different. It's basically not useful to take the prior board policy and cross the entire things out, because these things don't fit. There are components in here that aren't even mentioned in the prior board policy. So that's why you're seeing it so clean and without all the strikeouts. And what this does is this brings our board policy in alignment with the directive that the governor has given regarding independent study, and the State Board of Education. So this is for your review tonight. There's not anything in here that was personalized for our district or changed for our district. We're attempting to go ahead and bring the most straightforward according to the requirement language to you. And with that, I will open for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Superintendent Ochoa. Any clarifying questions from the board? I don't see any. We'll open up public comment, please, Peter.
Yes, if there's any members of the public that would like to make public comment on this particular item about independent study, please use the raise your hand functionality in Zoom now. Letty, your hand is up, and I recall it was up from the Spanish translation. So I'm just going to give you just a minute or a second an opportunity if you do not want to make public comment to lower your hand. Otherwise, I can bring you up. Thank you. Again, any members of the public like to make public comment on this item, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom. Okay, President Chin, we have no hands for public comment.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to officially close public comment for item 7.1, open up for board discussion and any comments or direction for Superintendent Ochoa. As he stated, this will come back for a vote and action item at hopefully the next meeting, but if anybody has any questions, now would be the time. Publicly, I should say.
No questions, but I do want to just express appreciation for the ability and the willingness to pivot so quickly as the directions from Sacramento changes as quickly as it has been. You know, we're doing things very differently than we have before, and that includes independent study. So I appreciate the ability of the district to do that and to move quickly on items such as independent study.
And Trustee Warren, we do have an amazing network of districts and our county superintendent, Nancy McGee, and they do a wonderful job of keeping us all together. So I think every superintendent in the state of California is doing one of these when you say that, because over the last 18 months, we have all gotten very used to flipping a switch very quickly with almost no notice at any given time. So I appreciate you recognizing that.
I would almost say it's not just superintendents, but almost everyone in the public school education field over the last 18 months or so, and we're still in it. So any other comments, questions before we move on to the next item? No? Okay.
I have some comments. I'm seeing the policy and I'm wondering about, you know, because it's so new, like, is this our current practice? Like, is there, I'm just curious about what's happening for students now, because I remember that we had several families who were really concerned about the loss of distance learning, and you know, in some ways, the way that distance learning happened was more accessible to certain families and students. And so my sense, just from hearing folks' concerns, and even, I mean, I know we just started the school year, right? So maybe folks haven't had enough time to experience how it will be different in practice now. But the concern that I've heard is that, again, like you said, Superintendent Ochoa, like going from one extreme to the other, and here we're doing distance learning, now we're definitely not. And I'm concerned about what that means in practice for students, and specifically some of our students with special needs and different learning abilities, who maybe aren't feeling like they can be, you know, in schools, especially with this variant, and the concern that there is in the community about it.
Thank you for that, Trustee Corzo. If I can respond, President Chin. Because of the change that has taken place in the state of California regarding the deprioritization of full-time distance learning and the replacement of that program with independent study, the district is following the guidelines that are set for independent study in such a way that we communicated the message out to all families, and we were able to initiate independent study at schools all over the district. So it is not funneling into any one campus or another per se. The feedback that we hear from families is we would love for it to be like full-time distance learning, because this is something that they experienced for a full year. And because of the design of the independent study program statewide, we're prohibited from offering a program that is identical to or very similar to the full-time distance learning program, where many districts, including the San Mateo Foster City School District last year, had a system to be able to keep kids with cohorted instruction with, basically in many places 4 to 5 hours a day of online teacher-led instruction, and that's not how independent study works. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to give the parents the tools to be able to access independent study with the knowledge that it is different and less than full-time distance learning. And the understanding that this is an issue that is statewide, that this type of change from the intensity and the length and the breadth of full-time distance learning has become independent study, which has a much reduced system of minutes and daily instruction as compared to the, like I said, every district was a little different, but in many places it was not uncommon to have 4 to 5 hours of time online with a teacher. So we see that and we hear that. And what we're trying to do is encourage our families to make the most out of the independent study program that we are offering. And of course, educate them as well as regarding our readiness, our mitigation, and our strategies to offer what we believe is a safe return to in-school instruction. And at the same time, we're very aware that there are families who are disappointed that we aren't able to offer that, if you want to say, replacement for full-time distance learning that approximates more what they've already seen. The second part of the question you asked was, is what we're doing now what's in this policy? And the clean answer to that is the system that we set up for independent study aligns with this policy. This policy has a lot of language in it. So, and when we received it was after we started to design the independent study process. But what we took was we took the guidance regarding independent study that came from the California Department of Education, and we designed our independent study alongside that guidance. And then what happened from there is the California School Board Association and others have created draft board policies, and that's what's before the board tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? No? Great. Okay. All right. We are moving on. I see Sue popped up here. We are moving on to 8.1, human resources. Sue.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Ochoa. Before you is the AB 1200 public disclosure. AB 1200 requires that school districts disclose costs publicly related to agreements with unions prior to approval by the board. And so on June 16th, 2021, prior to school letting out for the summer, the district and SMFCSD did reach a tentative agreement on reopening negotiations for this school year, and attached for information to the board are copies of the disclosure forms, which summarizes the financial implications of the major provisions of the agreement. So I respectfully recommend that the Board of Trustees receive the AB 1200 disclosure documents for information as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sue. Any clarifying questions on the receipt of the disclosures? No? Okay. Peter, if we wouldn't mind opening a public comment on this item, please.
Yes. Any members of the public that would like to address the board and make a comment on these items, on this particular item, 8.1, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. We have no hands for public comment.
Thank you. I will close public comment on 8.1. Any discussion items on the disclosure? No? Okay, it's related to 8.2. So, Sue, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. So the second item I'm bringing forward to the board is the tentative agreement between the San Mateo Foster City School District and SMFCSD, as well as the associated salary schedule. So as I stated earlier, the district and SMFCSD reached a tentative agreement on reopener negotiations. And just a brief summary, we did agree to a 3% salary increase with a one-time off salary schedule bonus of $1,500. In addition, we were also able to address some needs that we have around hiring. It is a very competitive hiring environment right now, especially for hard to fill positions. So we did increase the speech and language specialist pay. They will work a slightly longer day, and now they will be part of a different salary scale where they are going to receive an additional differential. We also agreed to a higher stipend for BCLAD certified teachers that are assigned to work in our language immersion programs. So the annual stipend of $2,500. Also, an additional stipend for our Montessori programs of $2,500. Both of those specialized programs, there is additional work for the teachers, and we've had difficulty hiring for those positions. So this is really going to be helpful. And we also increased the stipend for ASHA certification for speech and language pathologists as well to $2,500. Speech and language pathologists are very, very difficult to hire. And the district has been working with San Jose State to really try to build a pipeline to the program. And so we have been able to hire some new SLPs. And so we're really pleased about that. So I do want to thank SMETA leadership, the district bargaining team. We've been moving forward collaboratively and really appreciate the work of Lisa Fahey, Chief Negotiator for SMETA, as well as Julie MacArthur. And I'd like to respectfully recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the salary schedules and the tentative agreement with SMETA as negotiated. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sue, for that presentation. Any clarifying questions from the board?
I do have one, and this is in regards to speech and language pathologists. I noticed in our consent agenda, we approved the hiring of many speech and language pathologists through agencies for this year. We are talking about hiring our own, correct? We're not giving any stipends to agency.
No.
So, okay, just wanted to clarify on that one. Thank you.
Yeah, these are for our own district employees.
Any other clarifying questions before we move to public comment? No. Okay, let's go to public comment, please, Peter.
Any members of the public that would like to address the board on this particular item, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. We have one. Marcella, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to thank Sue Weiser and SMETA for all the hard work and negotiations. I do wish the stipend was greater for our immersion teachers as they're having to work in both languages with both parents and students, but I appreciate the increase as it all matters. I specifically want to highlight that 7% bump and ASHA certification increase that Sue mentioned, that speech language pathologists will be offered in this aspect of negotiations. So as Sue said, recruitment of speech language pathologists is a challenge, especially with the contracting salaries and the many other places that SLPs are needed. Speech language pathologists work long days. Their workload is similar to school psychologists. So the recognition of the workload increase is valued and appreciated. I really look forward to having this bump be in the contract and making San Mateo Foster City much more competitive when it comes to recruiting this early spring, and hopefully we'll see the fruition of this hard work show up in an increase of hiring district speech language pathologists. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. Okay. There are no other hands for public comment. Oh. Correction. Superintendent Ochoa, you had your hand up.
I do. I always like to take the opportunity to recognize staff members. I think, tonight's a night where we just all really thank and appreciate Sue Weiser for what she does for the school district. Dennis, her right hand Dennis as well, her team, and I don't want it to be lost on what kind of people are in this district and how collaborative the culture has been with the willingness for the school district bargaining team and SMETA to be able to sit and talk to each other and listen to each other and hear each other. It's just a really great thing for this district, and I just wanted to recognize them.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to officially close public comment on this item, open it up to board comments, and then ultimately a vote. I know that Superintendent Ochoa definitely kicked off the thank yous, but does anyone else want to go ahead and start?
I'll just share the same thank yous. Thank you, Sue and Dennis and the district team. And thank you, Julie and Lisa and the SMETA team for making this seem so smooth. And I really appreciate seeing the stipends that are offered to people that may help us attract even more people. So thank you.
I just wanted to highlight the trend that, over the years, like before when I was back in 2017, right? The relationship between our district and our teachers union and the negotiations process was very, very different from the way that it is now. And that is a testament to the hard work of everyone involved. And I think just in the shift of the culture of our school district. So I just wanted to raise that and thank everyone for like, the collaboration and the willingness to work together.
They've said everything for me. Oh my goodness. Thank you, both of everybody down the dais. I'm just going to have to add to it. Thank you, Sue and your team. Thank you, Julie, and everybody at SMETA for voting on this agreement and bringing it to us as a tentative agreement. As somebody who works in a profession where certification is so important, I am so glad that in this world that I'm also in, we are recognizing the importance of certification. And what Marcella said about our speech language pathologists is so true. They do so much. It's not just the way speech used to be when we were kids and you'd have somebody go out for speech. I was one of those kids, so I fully remember that. They work with kids on pragmatics and the nonverbal communication as well, which is so important, especially nowadays. I'm so happy to see that we are recognizing the strength of our bilingual teachers and our immersion programs, and that we are recognizing that not just with words, but financial ramifications as well. So thank you to everybody involved with coming up with these agreements. And thank you to our teachers that are within the union for agreeing to the terms of the contract. And here's to just going on and doing what we do best, and that's educating our children.
Great, thank you for all the board comments and Superintendent Ochoa for your comments. I also would like to thank Sue and your team, the entire district team, and also SMETA and her team, Julie and Lisa and all of SMETA on this. I have said this before, it does take a village, and you guys are all definitely part of the village. I've also, just going off of what Trustee Corzo said, coming onto the board when this is pre-Measure B, right? There were so many things that we wanted to do and wanted to give to our teachers, but we could not financially do it. And I think that this is moving all in the right direction. And so beyond just thanking the SMETA and and our district, we are a basic aid district, which means that most of our funding does come from our local property taxes. So I do want to also thank the voters for helping us out and stabilizing our finances. So without that, there's a lot of things that we couldn't be doing. And it's evident when we get on calls with other trustees and other cities and school districts. Other districts are really hard hit, either financially or human resources wise. And it's a really testament to our district to say that we're pretty stable. And so Sue and Superintendent Choa and your team, big thank you for everything. And thank you to Smita for everything that you guys do. So with that, would anyone like to make a motion here?
I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Thank you, Trustee Proctor for the motion and Trustee Corzo for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
We didn't hear you on the, can you do it one more time?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Proctor.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Yes.
And I will emphatically say yes as well. So this motion and this action item has passed. Thank you to everybody again for everything you guys have done.
And we also appreciate the board support. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sue. So we are moving right along at 8:01 in the evening on board member statements and requests for future agenda items. Who would like to start?
I will.
Please.
So one of the things that we were presented with in our consent agenda were just some numbers around our special education. We have 27 students placed at non-public schools or the NPS schools. While I understand that a certain number of students would need to be placed, that is the most appropriate place for them per IDEA and free and appropriate public education, I would love to know a little bit more whether that's like a reasonable number. I don't think we've ever been presented with that sort of data, because when you look at the cost of educating our students outside of our district at these non-public schools, it becomes rather expensive. And I would love to be able to, in the future, create programs within our district where we can keep that money within our district and educate our students here. I'm also concerned about the fact that we have had one settlement so far for special education, knowing that it felt like we were bombarded with special education settlements continually over the spring. That money, I understand, does come out of general funds. It's not earmarked in a special section for special education settlements or out of the special education budget, but that comes out of funds that we would be using to educate all of our children. Again, that's money I would love to see if we can keep within our district. I'd also like to know numbers for how many TK students do we have that have an IEP that are actually in a TK classroom. I would love to make sure that if we're, again, talking inclusion with special education, that we are actually walking that walk. So I'm hopeful, knowing that the school year is just getting underway and that we have a number of back to school, like it's kind of IEP season for back to school. I would love to see around October, during one of our October meetings, a special education update, just so we can get a pulse, a finger on the pulse of where we're at in terms of educating that equity group.
Well, okay, so I was gonna say happy first day of school, but I wanted to first say, I think Lisa or Trustee Warren, Lisa to me, that I think in the special education audit that was several, I don't know, a year or so ago, it did mention that our numbers were higher than like, an average district. So both in dollars and in number of students in those programs. So I know you asked that question that we didn't know, but I think that they did mention that. I don't know. We'll have to revisit. But what I was going to say was happy first day of school. I just really wanted to thank everybody in the school district for making today such a special day for children. I did a drop off of my 2 boys at middle school, and they're too cool to, say that they were excited, but I could see the second that they found some friends that it was the morning was already off to a good start. So thank you to all of our teachers, administrators, classified staff, everybody for this. And I just want to say that I hope we all have a great school year, and I'm looking forward to seeing more pictures on Facebook of happy kids in classrooms.
Yeah, ditto on that. All on my Facebook feed all day. It was just tons of pictures of happy kids, and it's very joyful to see the kiddos happy. And I too have a kid that's too cool to. He let me take a picture of him in the car, but not like outside of the car, not with other people seeing. So at least I got one still though. So yeah, I'm just very grateful to all of our staff and our parents, and just looking forward to the kids really, settling in and getting their routines down and enjoying the schools in person, and just the learning that'll happen. Yeah, I think in terms of future agenda items, I think I'm good right now. We have a lot that we already kind of have in process, and want to make sure that we give Superintendent Ochoa time to settle in. And, this is a time for people to get, just settled in and kind of, get to know each other and develop relationships. And I mean that in terms of in the classroom, at the school sites, among staff even, right? Like even among our team. So there will definitely, it's kind of that thing where like you go slow to go fast. So looking forward to all of the work that we will continue to do.
Thank you, trustees, for your comments and your board statements. I also would like to welcome everyone back to school. I also now have a middle schooler who our tradition is to take pictures on the first day and last day at our school signs. And of course, my new middle schooler did not want to do that on the first day. So we had to do it the day before when nobody was around. So, and he got on his bicycle this morning and just took off. It was like very surreal. So I just want to also, everyone, thank you. Welcome back to school. I really wish the Delta variant wasn't surging, but it was incredibly satisfying to be able to walk to school and to see all the parents and all the smiling kids. Well, not smiling kids because you couldn't see them behind their masks, but you could tell that they were all smiling and they're all happy to actually go in person and to actually be in class. So I want to thank everybody for all your hard work. It was a year from hell last year, but we did open the school year today, and I am so thankful for everything that you guys have all done, and all the teachers and all the certificated staff as well. So everybody, even administrators, everybody. So with that, I want to make 2 comments just on one comment, what Trustee Warren said. I do think a special ed update probably in October or so, when you have more time to actually go through and look at everything that we need to do, would be great. Also, if there's one thing that we've learned in this process with Zoom during our meetings, is that if we feel like the public probably wants more of an engagement process, more of a back and forth. I know that during the height of COVID, I think the public really wanted us to comment off of the public comments, but the board meetings are not really set up for that. So Superintendent Ochoa, if you wouldn't mind maybe coming back at a future agenda meeting and maybe really looking at how we can develop or think about how we can engage with the community a little bit more. That's a little bit more two-way rather than just one way during a board meeting, if you wouldn't mind. Lastly, there were two other things I wanted to say. For those who don't know, our new superintendent, Ochoa, celebrated birthday on Monday. So I just wanted to wish him a happy birthday again. And he created something new, and we didn't have an agenda item that is on here that is superintendent's update, but I wanted to give him the opportunity to talk about his podcast that he started. So Superintendent Ochoa, if you wouldn't mind talking about that.
Absolutely. The district initiated the One SMFC Podcast this week. We chose that name in the spirit of coherence and community and connection. It's really a podcast where we bring together teachers, administrators, parents, volunteers, stakeholders in the San Mateo Foster City School District community. And we sit down and we just talk about what parents want to hear about and what employees want to hear about. So we initiated that podcast. It's available for anybody who wants to download it at which is ONESMFC.buzzsprout.com. It's also available on our district webpage. If you open it up, there's a link to it there, and you can actually listen to it now on our district webpage. The first is titled A Safe Return to Schools Plan. I'm joined by two of our school district certificated nurses and by our coordinator for student services, Susie Riley. I am the host, so I talk a little bit, but more than anything, I ask questions and I lead a conversation. We have an episode coming up from Andrew Solis, who's our Director of Food Services, Nutrition Services. That's coming up. We have a special episode for the Laurel families, introducing their new principal, Dr. Cristian Rubalcaba. That's going to drop tomorrow on the podcast. Next week, we have a podcast that's actually going to include our board president and our chief business official. We're going to be talking about this community needs to know that we have historically low class sizes. We have very small numbers, ratios wise, and so that will be small class sizes, semicolon, the how and the why, and we'll get a chance to be able to talk to folks about that, as well as leading into next week. We'll have a podcast that will premiere regarding the San Mateo Foster City Ed Foundation. Myself and Annie Tsai and Colleen Sullivan will sit and talk about a donor recognition event that we're going to have on August 24th at Beach Park Elementary School. So basically what this does is it gives us as a school district an opportunity to reach out to more families, to explain what we're doing in a way that does not require the reading of a 3-page letter. You can listen to it. You can hear from these practitioners. You know, if you listen to that first podcast and listen to those nurses, it's amazing. And listen to Susie, it's really great. It's grounding. It's so much clear information, and we're just excited about premiering this. At the start of the year, we'll have one about every 3 to 4 days, and then we'll settle into a nice groove starting in October, where we'll have an episode at the beginning of the week, and that will just push all the way forward. Season 1 is from August until December, and then we'll reset. We'll take our feedback and we'll do some surveys, and then we'll initiate season 2 in January of 2022. So I'm very excited about that. And thank you for mentioning that. We did have close to 500 downloads in the first day of the podcast. So we're excited. Yeah.
Thank you, Superintendent Ochoa. I have listened to the first one. It is fantastic. Please, everyone, if you're curious, it's a way of sharing how we operate basically in the district. And I think it's a fantastic addition to our community outreach. I'm just curious. So Superintendent Ochoa, you know, we're all used to maybe Netflix where, you know, if you don't click away in 5 seconds, the next one's going to start. Is that the same, or? right.
We gotta get more in there before.
You're on mute, so it's okay. All right, so thank you, Superintendent Choa and all board members for your comments and future board requests. We're moving on to item 10. I believe it's 10. Sorry, my agenda just moved away from me. Yes, future meeting dates.
We have.
You're mute.
Trying to tell you folks, I'm always on mute. We have our August 16th special board meeting. Again, the elections by trustee area meeting coming up, and that will be at 5:30 p.m. on Zoom. And then our next regularly scheduled school board meeting is August 26th, Thursday. Again, closed session at 5:30 and open session at 6:30.
Great, and if anybody actually looked at the agenda, there's the Ed Foundation meeting, but the special meeting is actually not on there, but I'm glad we've mentioned it a few times. 5:30 on Monday for the trustee area elections. So please attend. It will be virtual. With that, we are moving on to our last item, which is adjournment. Anyone like to make a motion? Go home and actually talk to my son about his first day of school before he goes to sleep. Who would like to make a motion? Go for it.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Proctor for the motion, Trustee Corzo for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
Trustee Proctor.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. But before we adjourn, I just want to clarify, Superintendent Choa, did we finish everything in closed session? Or do we
Yes,
need to
we
return?
did. Yes, we
Okay,
did.
fantastic. Then we are adjourned at 8:17 in the evening. Thank you, and hope to see you guys later.